want to speak a bit about the Bhakti yoga path. The Bhakti path is one of the four great yoga paths. And it has nothing to do with Hatha yoga, which is just a preliminary version, a preparation for the real yoga path. So what we have in the West, what people call yoga in the West, is just a warming up for real Indian guys who know about yoga. So what I want to help is to understand yoga more today, and want you to understand what Bhakti is. Bhakti is the fastest path that exists. It is about devotion. So people start to devote themselves before idols of gods, statues of Buddha, Christ on the cross, and all these things. We all know that, we call that religion. And it's the very start of a Bhakti path. What we have here in Satsang is a very progressed version of Bhakti. It's the pure Bhakti yoga. You know, I never call it yoga here, but the only reason is nobody should mix it up with what he or she knows about yoga in the West, because this is not the real yoga. So what we are doing here is real yoga, but we cannot call it yoga because it would be mixed up in terms. So we call it with a fresh new name, Satsang, which is a beautiful name because it means meeting truth. So it means also being one with truth, be with truth, be truth. How to reach that? All here in Satsang is about how to reach being one with truth, and thereby having what we call awakening and enlightenment. This has the wonderful side effects of an empty head with no thoughts torturing you. The other wonderful side effect is you have no problems and no fears. You're just in the moment, perceiving what is without any judgment, full of peace and joy. So if I would advertise that somewhere, everybody would buy it. But somehow people have their guards to prevent, come close to that. The guards are routines, habits, fears, concepts, expectations, hopes, and dreams. So how to get rid of that in order to become one with truth? And the big answer is Bhakti. Devotion, but to what? All of us here are more progressed than to go to a church and bow down before Christ on the cross, or to bow down to a Buddha statue in Asia. So what are we bowing down to? It's the truth of the moment. That is the most efficient thing you can devote to. Sounds very simple, and it is very simple. There's only one problem: people don't do it. And even if they have had this experience once or twice, they forget about it and they don't do it. They follow their routines, they follow their habits, they follow their fears, they avoid pain, all the things how an ego keeps itself alive. And the way out of that trap is devotion to what is in this moment, because outside of this moment, nothing exists. It's just an imagination, a thought, but it doesn't exist. So what you can see with your eyes or perceive with your five senses is what is. This is your reality, and this is your life. Outside of that, there's no life. It's a very, very important thing to know and to really let in. Because most people think about past and future all the time, and they think this is their life. And then they have problems in situations which they want to solve. They cannot solve it because situations are not real, because it's just an imagination. And there's a illusion even that you can solve a bit. Yeah, then you have another trap. Then you thought you could solve a problem, and the next problem is arising. You all know that. You solve the problem, then the next problem knocks on the door. It's a never-ending line of problems which are waiting for you if you're not entering this moment, which never has any problem. So the mind says this cannot be, this is too much of versprochen, promises. This is too much of a promise. I don't believe it. It sounds too good. But you can prove it. Just relax. Just go into this moment for 1 millisecond and tell me whether you find a problem there. And tell me, do you need something in this moment? Do you have a need? Or is everything there already, what you need in this moment? And if you're honestly looking and inquiring this moment, then you will see everything is super fine in this moment, as you always wanted your life to be. So next step would be stay there. And here it becomes very tricky because the mind doesn't want to stay there. The mind wants to have control, wants to be important, and buys with pleasure problems and fears and pain and suffering just to have control and to be important. Once you know that, you are already close to the total victory over Maya. Maya is illusion. And you're very close to awakening, and constant awakening is enlightenment. So the key is don't believe your mind. Don't follow your thoughts unless you need that for your work. Then we can use thoughts for work, for creativity, for procedures. That's totally okay. But if you are drowning in your thoughts, if you let yourself being controlled by your thoughts, you're fucked. And that's how it is. You will never be happy, never be fulfilled. You will in the hamster wheel of fears, avoidances, and greediness and hopes. So how to enter this moment and stay there? This is the bhakti thing. Devote yourself to what is. Use your five senses And if you use them, you perceive the moment. Ask yourself, what do I see right now? Ask yourself, what do I hear, smell, taste, feel right now? It's very easy. Just do it. Then you come to the simple life that is en vogue, I would say, in many circles. Many people have discovered that simplicity is the key to something higher, which is more fulfilling. But they think they need to drive a simpler car, to have a simpler house, and they need a simpler daily routine. This might help a bit, but it's not the end of the journey. What we need is the utmost simplicity forever. And the utmost simplicity is to be only in this moment, nowhere else forever. Because the mind has to keep out. He has no access to this moment. And the mind is the one who is deteriorating your life, messing up your life all the time. Not because the mind is a bad thing, but because the mind has become a tyrant in the Western society and in a growing sense in the Eastern society as well, because the Western society has taken over the East. So what we are doing is a counter movement. The wisdom of the East is taking over the West now. That is the remedy for what the West is suffering from. A totally exaggerated mind is the disease, and real simplicity is the healing. So with your devotion, which is called bhakti in Sanskrit, with your full devotion to this moment as it is, you are entering the kingdom of peace and fulfillment. There's something you have to know about totality, otherwise it won't work. Some students of mine and students all over in all spiritual circles and lineages and religions, they think they can devote here and there a bit, have a spiritual life, and that's it. But then it's not spiritual at all. It's ego life. Ego uses spirituality then. And it's a very ugly thing if you see that, and it's all over. That ego has entered spirituality and controls spirituality. We need not only speak about churches. We can speak about yoga as well. If you go to yoga classes, especially of the famous yoga teachers, then here and there, to put it in a modest way, you can see how the ego took over already with the teachers and with the students. So the remedy, the healing for that, I'm lacking the words how to describe this development because it's really ugly. It really stinks. And it's really a criminal thing to abuse this gift of spirituality for the ego. But the ego abuses everything, so we have to cope with that. The remedy is listen and try what I say, go into total devotion for one moment and never let come up a next moment. Stay in this moment. In reality, there is only one moment. There's not a row of moments. This is how the mind is partitioning timelines into seconds, minutes, hours, days, etc. And it's not true. It creates stress. It creates dividing something into parts, which in reality is whole. And the word whole, I think, comes from heal. I'm not a native speaker of English, but I have a feeling could be etymologically the source of the word. So wholeness can be perceived only with totality in this moment. So if you devote your consciousness totally to this one moment right now, then you have access to the incredible wonderland of enlightenment. And you don't need anything for that, just this information. So if you do that, and if you could stay there without letting your mind, giving your mind the power to mess it up again, then you would be enlightened from now on forever, even including your next incarnations. Yeah, if it would be so easy, I know it is not so easy because we have a pain body, we have these habits, we have our routines, our beliefs and concepts. But it's only a seeming obstacle, because once you come back to the moment again, let's say you come back again, because this is how we practically experience it, all of a sudden, all these problems, these obstacles are not there. The whole mind is not there. How can that be? How is that possible? Because in reality, nothing is there but the consciousness. So if you concentrate fully on what is real, which is totality in perception, and that equals with consciousness, it's the same. Totality in perception is consciousness. So if you devote all your powers of consciously perceiving the world into one moment, totally 100%, then this is a glimpse into enlightenment. But if you don't do that totally, if you're partitioning your consciousness, if you are dividing it, if you are saying, I'm devoting to this a bit and to that a bit, but to this thing I don't devote because it's inconvenient for me, then you will not reach the kingdom. You will stay in ego land. It's like a door with a doorkeeper of a club. And if you are on the list, then you come in, you get in. If you're not on the list, you don't get in. It's a yes or no question. It's not a gradual thing. You cannot get into the club a bit. You can either get into the club or not. Everyone knows that. And with enlightenment, it's the same. You cannot say, I am just a bit on the list. I'm 10% on the list. Then it's not working. You have to be on the list or not. On this list, you can be on for the door to enlightenment by your 100% bhakti. So please work on bhakti, especially the bhaktis in my sangha, but also the Shapshis and also the students and all the beginners, please concentrate on devotion from the very first day. It will arise fear, it will arise pain, it will arise fear of losing, because you will lose everything. You have to lose everything. You cannot take your bullshit into enlightenment because it's not needed there. It's even counterproductive. You cannot take your fears into the realm of peace and fulfillment. Everybody understands this sentence here. But practically seen, people think they can take all their dreams and hopes and their images from their childhood, they can take it into enlightenment and there it will be fulfilled as they want it. It's not like that. It's not like that because life is bad. It's not like that because life wants to make you angry. It's like that because what you get in enlightenment is light years better than what you dreamed of. The crux, the problem is the ego cannot see it yet and cannot believe it. So you are dependent on your true side, which is already there because you are in satsang, something already matched with truth. So you rely on your truth that you feel, rely on your love to satsang, to truth, to the guru, to the sangha. Rely on that. Let yourself be guided by it. Because your ego will never say, yeah, let's go to the kingdom of peace and fulfillment, and I let everything behind because I'm so courageous. The mind is a coward. The mind is not courageous, not at all. If you have courage in your life, it doesn't come from your mind. It comes from your heart. There's even this movie called Braveheart. Yeah, it's exactly the term that applies here. You can only be brave with your heart, not with your mind.